Go watch some of those pre-fights like UFC 1 and stuff like that.
Nasty.
Yeah.
Blood all over the place. There's
Yeah.
obviously blood now,
They still
broken
do,
noses or
but-
whatever, but people were going in there to die.
Yeah. People,
Actually did.
People were headbutting people.
Yeah.
Like, there was no rules. It was freaking nuts.
Full field.
You're full field right now?
Right now, baby.
I'm fasting, so, most people would say I'm underfield, but
No.
I feel full field.
Yeah, full
I'm
field.
fucking field.
That's all day, baby. We just live it.
That's it. What do we do today, bro?
Injuries, baby.
Injuries.
Injuries. We're talking about injuries today.
Okay.
Yeah. But before we get into that,
Dude.
let's talk about friggin' how steroids just got approved for the UFC.
Yeah, it's not even that they got approved. They just, like, USADA, the anti-doping agency, basically was like, we're not part of this anymore.
We're just
They
not
basically,
gonna...
like, cut their, like, partnership with the UFC.
Oh, that's what it was.
So it's like...
Oh, so it wasn't
free
like...
game.
It wasn't... It wasn't like Dana White was like, we're going to approve this.
Right.
It was like, yo, we're out.
We're
We're
out.
just not...
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, and I think it was... I mean, dudes have been doing steroids in the UFC forever. Not necessarily like anabolic steroids, but like performance-enhancing things.
Well, you can disguise them, right?
Oh, yeah, you can...
Yeah.
Or you take a shit ton of stuff in the off-season, you pass a couple fudgy tests,
Yeah.
and then, like, when it comes to, like, fight, you, like, just piss clean. And it's like...
So
everyone's
we were
doing
talking
it,
about
bro.
this before the show. What do you think is going to happen? Like, are guys' faces going to be ripped off? Like, what?
I don't know. I mean, like, if you go back to, like, the original UFC, it was ugly, man.
Dude,
like,
it was
the
nasty.
rings were
This is
covered in blood.
Pre-Dana White.
That's right. Before
Yeah.
they got like real legit pay-per-view, all that, it was bloodbath. Like go watch some of those pre-fights like UFC 1 and stuff like that.
Nasty.
Yeah.
Like blood all over the place. I mean, there's
Yeah.
obviously blood now,
They still
broken
do,
noses or
but-
whatever, but like it was like people were going in there to die.
Yeah. People were headbutting people. Like,
Yeah.
It was like there was like no rules. It was freaking nuts.
I mean, it was one of those things, something I mentioned to you. It's like when the NFL kind of like you were disguising a lot of stuff. It wasn't Sean Merriweather. It was some guy. He played for the Chargers.
Yep.
Dude, he was yoked out.
He killed everyone. He was
He
just, like,
just
a
murdered
monster.
everyone. But he was a
run people
missile for
over.
like 2
Yeah.
years, and then he was gone.
Then he was dead. Yeah.
So
I think
that might
he
be...
died, right?
Huh?
I think he died.
Did he really?
I think so. I don't know. You don't quote me on that one, bro.
Yeah. But, so, I mean, he was a missile. It could be where, like, that's what could happen. These guys' careers...
Yeah, I mean, if you think about
Maybe.
the sport, bro, a lot of it's like grappling and like these like fine, like kind of, you got to be like mobile and be able to like get your way out of stuff. If you're a big, like jacked, muscle bound guy, that's probably not to your benefit, right? Like,
Yeah, I
don't
wouldn't
know.
think
Think
so.
about like the jiu-jitsu guys.
It's
They're-
also going to be the weight classes that are going to, like,
Yeah,
obviously
the
promote it.
heavyweights.
Yeah, the heavyweights are
gonna be,
just
like,
going to be
two
monsters.
freaking titans in there just mashing each other's brains out, dude.
Friggin' who was who's the guy now? I haven't watched it in a while, but I mean it's still.
Yeah, I don't know names like that. Brock Lesnar was the dude that was like forever.
I mean, he was
like,
a monster.
yeah,
He had to be yoked.
insane. Yeah, he was
when
on
he was-
something, bro. He had to.
Yeah, yeah. Now he's more of a WWE guy.
Yeah.
he's back at it. He was WWE, came over to UFC, back to WWE.
What they need to do is they need to get that guy Thor Bjornsson. He's the He's like this power lifter that's he's won all kind of competitions. He played in Game of Thrones like the Mountain.
Oh yeah. I know exactly who you're
Dude
talking
is
about. Monster.
humongous, bro. He's humongous. They need
Is
to
he
get-
like he's like 6'8"?
Oh yeah, he's up
He's
there.
huge.
Yeah,
I mean,
just a freak
that's
human.
tough. That
Yeah.
is the freak of a human.
Right.
I mean, obviously there's some pharmaceuticals in there, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be.
But I mean, I think as far as UFC, bro, like I think dudes are gonna be recovering better, right? Like anabolics help you to recover. They help you to speed that up, help you to get more like muscle growth, which like muscle, like we talked about in past episodes, is kind of it's protective,
Yeah.
right? Like it's protective of your joints. You have more muscle.
But
don't know, it'd be
what does it
interesting.
do? So like, this is the thing. What does it do later on in life? Like, are these guys like not gonna have testicles?
Oof.
Like
Yeah, I
what?
mean,
Like they get
that's a side effect, right? Like shrinks
their
gets
penis
you-
amputated. Like they just don't like what happens? Like the thing falls off. Like that's
It doesn't affect your penis. It affects your testicles, and I just spit a little bit. I got a little excited there. It affects the testicles and the production of testosterone. So like when you're getting it exogenously, right, or that's why they shrink. But
so they will shrink. They'll like friggin'
atrophy
like
a little
little
bit.
raisins.
little raisins. It was getting a little
Just
weird. But I don't
these
know,
guys
man.
can't get enough. See, that's the thing. is like the long-term effects to it. It's like, bro, you can't even enjoy sex at that point. You were yoked out, and every dude is just looking at you like, bro, this dude is jacked.
Yeah.
And
But when it
maybe I'm
comes
getting a
time-
half chub looking at you because that dude is jacked. But the reality is that dude can't get it up with his girl anymore. His girl hates him.
Unfortunate. Yeah. Yeah.
So he
That's
might
the
be
risk
yoked.
you take, I think, man. It's like, there's a lot of like,
Like, what's the real benefit? Like,
I guess you
I
could
can be like,
knock a bunch of people out and make a bunch of money, but it depends on. It's a trade off, right?
there's
Like,
a significant
there's a big
trade-off
trade-off
there.
Yeah.
There's a big trade-off.
Yeah.
I mean, and segueing into injuries.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm
that's a big injury.
I'm trying to wrap my head around. Yeah. Long term. Trying to wrap my head around like if there's going to be more injuries. Like, are we going to see someone die? Right, in the UFC, because these guys are just so
Heart
big that
conditions.
they're hitting so hard. Heart conditions, but I mean just like hitting so
Oh,
hard.
yeah.
Right? Like how much force is behind like a one of those heavyweight punches, dude. Like,
Yeah.
it'd probably kill me, right? Like if one of those dudes, like 300-pound guy, I'm 175 pounds. Like if he
Yeah.
just struck me in the face as hard as he could, like I'd probably have some serious brain injury.
No
So
doubt.
like that being like repetitively done, bro. Most boxers have some kind of TBI, long term like concussive effects.
Yeah.
Like these neurodegenerative things that happen. So I don't know if it's good or bad. I think it's pretty crazy. I think
I think it's wild, man.
yeah, when you start to drop regulations, man, and it's just like the Wild West, like something, I don't know. I think we'll just have to see what happens. But
We will see. We will see.
yeah, I mean, as far as like injuries, bro, it's like this is what we were kind of talking about earlier. Like, are they preventable? Right? Like, can you forever live an active life where maybe you're kind of not like pushing the limits that hard, but like you're working out and you're daily, like, are you gonna always be able to prevent injury? Like, is that realistic, or is
No.
like life just life? Which is
Yeah.
where I kind of lean. It's like shit happens. Like,
Yeah, shit
like,
happens. I think it definitely unavoidable. I mean, if you're playing life that way, not to get injured, man, that sucks.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's a
Yeah.
sucky life. Like, I want to stretch things a little bit.
Yeah.
Me in particular. Like,
Yeah.
I want to see,
Yeah.
to the extent. That's, I think, the beauty of setting a baseline for something and then, hitting some PRs and doing those things is that, they will come.
Yeah.
But then how do you mitigate that time frame and when they do come, right? How can you rebound all that much quicker?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you've been an extreme help for me. Even this past week, I tweaked my back because the reality is I got sick, right? I got a little head cold. And that ultimately is it's just gonna create a little bit of lockup in your body, right?
Yeah.
And
More
then
inflamed, yeah.
I still wanted to go work out, and so I remember I was like, man, I'm not feeling great, like I'm not feeling 100%, and I'm gonna go work out, and so I did a CrossFit workout, and I remember I know exactly what it was. We were doing front squats, and I didn't go heavy, so I put 225 on there.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel it in the moment, but I felt it later on in the
later,
day. And I'm
yeah.
like, oh, man. I was like, I locked up something. Like, something doesn't feel right. So that's when I immediately took precautions. I did, obviously heat therapy
Yep.
and cold therapy. And then I got adjusted by you. You put me on the decomp.
Yeah.
But I went
yeah.
through 3-4 days of that, just cycling through because I wanted to shorten up the window.
Yeah.
So for me, no, it's unavoidable, man. I'm like, it's part of my life, right?
right, yeah.
I'm going to work out. And then I work out to be functional in other things, right? So like I want to be functional. We were talking about before the show. Like I want to be around my kids and I want to be playing on the friggin' floor and doing stuff and picking them up.
Yeah.
My 7-year-old's like 90 pounds. I want to be able to pick her up,
Yeah.
right? And do those things. Sometimes some things might happen,
Right.
but more than not, I'm prepared. And then when I'm obviously injured, I want to shorten that time span.
Yeah, I mean, I think like with training, it all depends on your goals, right? But like for the people we're kind of speaking to in this regard, probably some kind of business person who has a family and is training to look good, training to be in shape and for longevity.
Yeah,
right?
right.
They're not training for an NFL game. They're not training for this like high level sport. They're just training for life, right? So it's like, yeah, you gotta have a balance there between like looking good and putting on muscle and like being able to move that muscle, right?
Yeah.
Versus like the guys who just get real tight muscle and then they go to pick up their kid and herniate like 3 discs. It's like you don't want to be that.
Doesn't
like,
that suck?
you're compromised. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like I think you can help mitigate injury, right?
Yeah.
And get more preventable. But like as far as like life stuff, bro, like you were talking about, you get a little sick, you're trying to keep up with your routine, your body's maybe a little bit more inflamed, a little bit less like you have less of that push, so maybe you push the front squat a little bit and your form went and your low back took over where your hips and glutes should have, and then you locked up, right? So it's like those kind of things just happen, man. That's life. But you can do your best to mitigate that by doing the right things, right? Like foam rolling is fantastic for. I'm not the biggest
myofascial release.
I think stretching's great, but
Yeah.
like at a time and place, I'm not the biggest fan of like static stretching all the time. I think more like dynamic stretching, like doing like taking your body through ranges of motion that are gonna be somewhat like a stretch, but is moving as opposed to just like holding a hamstring stretch for a minute. It's like you're just creating like so much like laxity almost in that joint. So I'm not the biggest fan of that. I don't usually recommend people do that all the time. I think post-workout static stretching is good.
Yeah.
But I'm more of a fan of like a dynamic, functional kind of range of motion stretching.
Yeah. I was telling actually a couple guys that I was leading through. I was just helping them out, and one thing that I do is I incorporate that in the shower. So like dynamic stretching in the shower when your body's heating up.
Okay.
So
Step
like
on a bar of soap, bust your ass.
yeah, no bueno, that happens. But I do it because my body's like a little bit more open, right? My blood's flowing.
Yeah.
The heat's hitting my back. And so I'll
cool.
do like 2 to 3 minutes of just like pure stretching in the shower.
Yeah.
My wife thinks I'm a little crazy, but I mean, I'm in a great environment to do it, right?
Yeah.
I'm like stacking kind of both of those together, and my body's already heated up.
Yeah.
So
or like if dude, like one of my favorite hacks before I lift, right, is like a sauna with some movement. So like if you have access to a sauna that's big enough for you to move in, you can do some kind of bodyweight squats, some push-ups, some kind of dynamic stretching, moving the arms, moving the legs, those like hip openers and closers. Plus that heat, like you said, it's getting like circulation, it's getting blood flowing through the body.
Yeah.
You go to work out, bro, and you feel like ready.
Just
you know what I
money.
mean? Yeah, you don't feel like stiff and you're having to like, kind of force
and
it
that's
up
when
or something.
that's when an injury happens anyway, when you're stiff, right? When you're
so
loose.
the warm-up is real important, right?
Yeah.
Like most people are like, oh, I got an hour to work out. I'm going to just go straight from sitting at a desk all day to trying to bench press this weight.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, like that's asking for problems. You know?
Yeah. One of the big things is like preventative, I think, of golf. When majority of amateur golfers show up like 5 minutes before their tee time and expect to like play a good round, right?
I show up at the tee time, bro. And I'm like, why the hell can't I hit the ball? I'm like all frustrated. Like,
but when you're like at the range, you've heated up, your body's getting acclimated.
Right.
You have some kinetic motion, some muscle memories coming back a little bit. You're prepared to go into your round a little bit more.
Yeah.
You're like, oh dang, I played a little better, right?
Yeah, makes sense, right?
You're putting odds in your favor, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with working out. It's also like preventative of injury. There's like injuries that occur during golf.
Yeah.
It's because you freaking going 5 minutes before the tee time, and not swinging the club at all. Then you're just hacking away at
that's
a
right.
9-iron or a driver that your body wasn't meant for that quite yet.
Yeah, and how many injuries you see, bro, or like even I'm guilty of this in the past, like the ego injury. You're in the gym, bro, and you got the weight on the bench press or you got the weight on the squat bar, and there's someone next to you who's doing a little bit more. You're like, oh shit, I got to do more. Like I got to be like this guy, You throw a little bit more weight on there than maybe you can do.
Yeah.
And you end up kind of pushing it, tweaking something.
Yeah.
Not, so it's like checking that ego, making sure you're not going in there to prove anything to anyone else, right? Like go to the gym to get better for yourself.
Which
I think ultimately is a huge problem for most people. Is like it's a beauty contest in most gyms, right?
Yeah.
Your big box gyms. Everyone's in there to look good and kind of show off a little bit, and it's like just check that at the door, man, and just go in there to get better, right?
Yeah.
Like it's you versus you. It's not you versus anyone else in there, right?
I love that.
Yeah. And I think that kind of segues into like you got to be training for not only your goals, right? Like my goals are different than your goals, are different than everyone else's goals, right? Like your goals are specific to you, but also like your body type, right? I know we talked about this a lot, like you and I. It's people have different body types. Your ectomorph, mesomorph, endomorph, the hybrids in between. It's like some people are just going to naturally be able to have more muscle, can do more of those powerlifting type moves, and be good with pushing heavy weight. Other people, like your long distance runner type builds, that's probably not in their best favor. I mean, yes, they should strength train, but it's like to an extent, they have to be conscious of their frame, right? And like tell me a little bit about what you were talking about earlier, like the this is actually new to me, is what the amount of muscle or weight of muscle people should have on their frame, right?
Oh, naturally. And this is
Yeah.
like untrained over the course of a lifetime. Is that typically max you can hold 50 pounds of additional muscle, which I was like, when he said that, so Alan Allegan, he's obviously a nutrition scientist and pretty well known, but he was the one who basically was saying that, pick up a 45-pound, like, and
That's a lot
just
of weight.
hold it. That's a lot of weight,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Holding your kid or whatever, that's a
Yeah.
lot of weight to like hold
Yeah.
on a muscular frame.
Right.
And then you were saying that, just imagine if you extend beyond that, right? Whether it's artificially or you're like increasing your caloric intake to loads that you probably shouldn't, right?
Yeah.
Then you increase that, and then it becomes like what that does to your joints
Right.
over the course of a lifetime, right?
Yeah. Like if
And-
you're enhanced, like
and and that's pure muscle.
Right.
But we even talk about people are overweight. You're just sloppy and you're holding on excess weight.
Yeah.
Like what that does to your
It's the
joints.
same weight as
right?
weight, right?
There's
Doesn't matter if it's
degradation.
muscle or fat, gravity's gonna pull down on your body.
Right.
So like the more you have, the more it's gonna pull. I think the example we were talking about earlier was Ronnie Coleman. Like
Yeah,
he was
friggin'.
dude. Look, him in his prime, he was insanely huge. Like,
Bro,
he was
I like
so
literally
freaking jacked.
just walking
That's how he
around,
walks.
freaking can't even walk.
Yeah.
Now every little reel you get of him and Arnold are like hanging out
Yeah.
on Venice Beach, and the dude can't even freaking walk.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he pushed the limits beyond. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, yeah, he won a bunch of shows and was like this, looked like a Greek god. Like, but now has no discs in his spine,
Yeah.
and so like I think he has fusions in his entire back.
Yeah.
So it's like, man, like, what's the trade off, right? Like,
Yeah,
you,
what's
you
the
did all
trade-off
this
exactly?
in the prime of your life to like have no future longevity.
Let's talk about that for a minute, because I love this concept of like bodybuilding, because it's definitely one of these things where you're like, man, like it's we went to, it wasn't Fit Fest, I think it was USA Fit or something like that, nutritious. We had a booth there.
Yeah.
And I was looking at these guys and I'm like, bro, they are specimens. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, man, they are like, dude, I'm not, no homo, they're freaking good looking dudes. I'm like, these bodies are
Well, that's what every man
chiseled.
is like. I want to be like that. You know what I mean?
So then, though, like, big dude, and is doing this over the course, maybe even won some competition. So Ronnie Coleman obviously won some. Jay Cutler winning some competition.
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger's definitely, I would say, has like kept himself pretty well, but then at the expense of like you getting to 60s, 50, late 50s, 60s now, and you can't keep it together. Like, I mean, some of these guys' bodies are just like giving up on them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's kind of honestly a little early. Like, I think longevity wise, I'm like, man, I kind of want to be moving like, well into my 80s.
It's freaking sad, man. Like, it sucks. Like, yeah.
Like, you did that. Like, I'm like, it ain't all that cool. Like, they're definitely pushing those boundaries.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are your thoughts? Because I'm like, dude, that's a sexy ass man.
Yeah, I think you got to know, right? Like the consequences.
Yeah.
You have to know. Like,
Going in.
Like
I'm
if somebody knows and doesn't share that with you or lies and you go into it without, then that sucks. Like, that's unfortunate. But like, you got to know, hey, I might compromise my future years because I want to achieve some goal right now.
Yeah.
Right? The same with like NFL players, bro. It's like these NFL running backs, man. Brain
Dude.
injuries, massive injuries, like ACLs, hips, like all that kind of stuff, dude. They get just beat to hell. Like, bro, by the time they're 50, these dudes are not functioning. You know what I mean? And it's like, but maybe you made millions and millions of dollars. And to you, it was worth it. I don't know. Like, I don't think to me it would be, right? Like, I want to be able to move.
Well, you can make millions and millions of dollars well into your
Otherwise-
80s with a good brain.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's just like, again, man, it's like everyone's autonomous human can make decisions for themselves.
Right.
If to you want to make that decision and do that, do
Yeah.
it. Like, I'm not going to tell you no, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But know that it does have downstream effects, right? Later in
100%.
life, there's going to be things that come with it.
That is one of the things about the game of football that I've had the biggest thing. My dad did not, so he let me play football.
I wasn't allowed to play.
You weren't allowed to play?
Thank God. My parents were like, no, like, you're a small little Italian kid. Like, you're not playing freaking football, dude. You get your
So
ass
my
mashed
dad
up.
like put the scare tactic on me. He's like, dude, you're pretty good at basketball. If you play football, you're gonna have to give up your basketball season. And I was like, Like, why? He's like, you're guaranteed to get injured. And so I'm like, really?
Interesting.
And I was like, that's an interesting outlook. But the reality was, dude, he was like nearly 100% right almost all the time, because there was a guy, I remember him, we called him Fromm. And this dude was a pretty good basketball player. And he was a good receiver too. He busted up his senior year, man. Torn ACL.
Yeah.
There was another kid that could shoot, Kent Fiat. He definitely. Yeah, I think he made it through half the season, but I think he had a shoulder injury or something like that.
Yeah.
So all these guys, these players that like played football, eventually, they came in with an injury during basketball season, because obviously you're in I think fall in Michigan. I don't know if it's different. Yeah, no, it's all the same. Like in the fall is football season.
Yeah.
So you're coming in out of the summertime, you're coming in, and then
spring.
basketball season comes in the winter.
Yeah.
And that like it just, so anyways, my dad, I was like, I would like always try out, and I'd be like, man, I'm probably gonna get hurt. And I was actually a pretty good football player.
Yeah.
But I never played. So then that comes back down to like talking about football a little bit, of the longevity of the sport. I know it's because, like, honestly, it's not as popular as it was.
Right.
It's becoming depopular in terms of, I think that's more Colin Kaepernick, and there's other associations
Yeah,
becoming why it's becoming unpopular.
Yeah.
But I think personally it's becoming a little bit more unpopular is because less kids are playing it, because they're seeing the long-term effects of like what it does to your brain. I know there was a linebacker from Wisconsin ended up playing for the San Francisco 49ers. I forget his name, but he's like, dude, screw this. He got into the league, was tearing up the league.
Yeah.
Like
Well, who was the receiver for the Lions, bro? Megatron, that was his nickname. Calvin Johnson.
Yeah, Calvin Johnson.
Dude was at height of his career, quit because he was like, I want to live a life.
I want to live. Yeah.
He's like, I don't want to be crippled later.
Yeah.
That takes like some, some stones to do, bro. Like giving up millions of dollars. And
same thing, Barry
accolades,
Sanders.
like maybe Super Bowls, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Barry Sanders did the same thing. They're like, what? You're going to cut your career short? But for the sake of entertainment, he's like, bro, you got to understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
And you were talking about specifically running backs. Dude, running backs, you're going full speed.
Your goal is to get tackled by a 250-pound dude or three. Like it's
easy
either like
three builds.
Run past them or you get tackled every play.
Every play.
Single time.
And go head first.
Right.
Literally, just go head first to the brick
whatever
walls.
happens. If I get smashed,
just wild stuff. So if you really think about the game of football, and then specifically what that does on a man's body over the course of, there was a dude that I played basketball with. I'm telling you, his name was Kevin Kilgo. He was a really good basketball player. Like, the dude had footwork for being 6'5" and like probably 275, 300 pounds. He might have been over 300 pounds, but like he was good, like really, really good. The dude went to Toledo and I think he blew out both of his knees. He told me, I saw him like a couple years ago. He told me that he's going to have a knee replacement by the time he's 40. I'm like,
that sucks.
He didn't even make it to the league. He didn't get any NIL money. He didn't get any, like, there's no money. And there's no money for the offensive line. I mean, he's an offensive lineman, so he's not getting money. Like, unless he makes it to the league, he's not making money. So now he's got to get a knee replacement at 4. I'm like, what?
That sucks. And it's so rare, like how many kids play football, then how many kids from that percentage become college players? Not a lot. It's a very
not a lot, yeah.
And then go into the NFL, it's like a
very small.
I think a fraction of a percent, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so then to end with an injury, it's like, dude, that's got to be very.
As we're talking about this, more and more is coming to my buddy Ryan. He was a pretty good linebacker in high school. I think he was like an all-state linebacker. The dude is. He's super unhealthy. Ryan, if you're watching this, dude, I'm sorry, but I'm going to let you know. I'm going to call you out. He is just sloppy now. But one of the reasons, just
get
sloppy.
Roasted, Ryan.
Bro.
I don't know you, Ryan. But...
Dude, Ryan, though, he's probably, if I had to guess, honestly, bro, you're probably, what, 150 pounds overweight, I would say. Like, for his frame, he's probably 150 pounds overweight. But this dude has such bad ankles.
This just became a roast.
This dude has such bad, like, ankles, knees, hips, shoulders. from high school football. Didn't
Yeah.
play a down of college football.
Yeah.
And his body is just wrecked.
Yeah,
I
that
think he
sucks.
actually didn't go play college football because his body was so wrecked in high
Couldn't do
school.
it. Damn. Yeah.
Insane, bro. Like, I mean, there's kid after kid after kid. So, granted, I mean, football is a cool sport, but it's pure entertainment.
Yeah, it is. And like again, man, it's like you go into it, you should know the possible outcomes.
Yeah.
Right? Like, hey, you could go and play a long career in the NFL, no injuries. Very
There's
not likely.
there's
That's
no
very unlikely,
yeah.
bro. Most dudes getting dinged up pretty hard, and even if it's, I was thinking like basketball compared to football. Basketball is different injuries.
Yeah.
Like, you don't see as many of those big like ACL blown out and whatever like hip, fractures and stuff like that. It's more like, oh, he sprained his ankle, he's out for a few weeks, or like,
Yeah.
oh, he like sprained his knee,
Broke
or
3
it's like
ribs.
little like, yeah, that was weird. Yeah. For
Played
everyone
with
listening, I was playing basketball.
aggressive guys at Lifetime.
Yeah, no, it was out at Julian Lane Park, bro, outside. Like
Oh,
2 p.m. It was like
gosh.
105 degrees out there, and so like I'm tired, and me and this dude just like collided, and like he was 100 pounds heavier than me for sure. And the way he caught my rib, dude, it just like. Like kind of like that feeling that took the breath out of me, and then like a week later I'm like, this shit, it's not healing, this feels weird. I took an x-ray of myself in the office, and I was like, I broke my ribs, dude, that's sweet. And then we went and played golf the next day, and that is when I was like, yeah, I should take a break.
look at this.
But it's better
Gosh.
now, man. I'm good.
But those are the injuries that happen.
Right,
If you're
yeah.
going to be an active,
If I'm gonna go
like
play
you're an active
basketball,
dad,
you
right?
gotta-
Like, so you like playing basketball, you like
right.
playing golf. Those injuries will come along the way, but like then how do you mitigate those? So
Yeah.
I think we both agree injuries are unavoidable, especially if you're what I consider like the working athlete, right?
Right,
Where, dude, I like playing.
Weekend warrior kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then how do they become unavoidable? Or how do you mitigate
Right.
and then be able to rebound a little bit more quickly as you age? And that's where like you've really played a big role in terms of, okay, well, what am I doing before and after, right? Am
Right.
I proactively stretching? Am I like
Right.
that's something that I do every time. Like before I go out and golf, like literally I'm doing dynamic stretches,
Yeah,
right?
me too,
Like
yeah,
as if
yeah.
I'm going into a CrossFit workout, I'm doing stretches like that for golf,
Yeah,
right?
it's good.
Just letting my body limber up, getting to heat up my central nervous system. That's
Yeah.
really a big thing
Yeah.
of incorporating your central nervous system, letting it heat up a little bit. And then what are you doing after too, post?
Yeah.
If you have a little bit of static stretches in there, but I think good dynamic stretches even after
Right.
allow the body to I guess come out of maybe an athletic endeavor that you might be in.
Yeah.
Because I would call CrossFit kind of an athletic endeavor, but I would also call like basketball. You still need to stretch because
Right.
there's certain things that
Yeah.
you're going to be moving around that require good stretching.
Yeah.
But then getting adjusted.
Hmm.
Like, dude, I get adjusted like once or twice a week, right?
Yeah.
And then
Your spine being able to move is so important in your joints.
Huge.
Right. It's like then your muscle, because if not, if your spine is rigid, bro, and your muscle's trying to overwork for that's
Yeah.
going to cause an injury. That's going to be more like those annoying, like long term, just nagging. This muscle always hurts kind
Yeah.
of injuries, right? Because your body
Dude.
can't move.
Get this. So this guy, this is what he does to me. He friggin' cracks my ears, number one. So he like does this weird ear crack to me. And then he cracks my head. And it is unbelievable. If you watch me on Instagram, I'll post every once in a while on him. He does this crack in the neck. I swear to you, like I would wake up all the time with these like weird, like little tweaks in my neck, and I'm like, oh man, slap it. Not once have I woke up with something like that.
Nice.
Because I just get quality neck turns on a weekly basis, bro. My
Perfect.
man.
That's good. I got
Alessi
you.
Functional
I
Health
got
for
you,
you.
bro.
Little drop.
Little plug. Thanks, man. Well, I think kind of in summary of everything we talked about, bro, is like we're not talking to professional football players. We're not
Yeah, 100%.
as much, right? Maybe there's some that are going to listen to this. That'd be cool. But the average person like us who's trying to maybe push their limits a bit, right?
Yeah.
Has a family, maybe is 30 plus, is looking to be successful in career, but also wants to stay fit and healthy.
Uh-huh.
It's like check your ego, do the basics,
Yep.
right? Don't be too good for warm up, right? Like I was guilty of that all the time. I was like, I'm just gonna go in here and freaking hit some weights, dude. Like like do some actual functional movement, getting every range of motion in the hips and the shoulders going before you train. That pillar that we talked about from the NASM is so good to focus on, bro. If you incorporate every level of that into a workout, like you're gonna have a great workout. So you're doing some stabilization training. You're doing that more like endurance, getting the muscles warmed up, and then you're gonna push the strength. And I think that's a fantastic way to train, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it, man. I also do cold water therapy. I freaking love it.
And then recovery. That's huge, bro. How do you mitigate injury? Make sure you recover.
Yeah.
Oh, I just lifted 3 days in a row. My body feels sore and tight. Let me go play basketball. Probably not a good idea. I used to do that all the time. I'd be like, man, like, I'm just going to go play ball today because I would lift, but my whole body hurts. Yeah. I was probably doing too much volume. It's just having, like, a smart training regimen is how you prevent injury.
Yeah.
Right?
That's one thing that really has, when I got into more functional health and really understanding, I had a direct association with my body. So like I haven't worked out because like I tweaked my back. I was like, I want to focus on this, right? For the next few days.
Yeah.
Because it's not good. I got to listen to my body. Whereas like exactly what you're talking about, it doesn't hurt that bad.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go lift and then I'll play a little basketball.
I'm going to lose my gains if I miss 2 days in the gym. So I'm going to work through this injury, probably make it worse, and then have to take a month off. It's like,
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
So that, that's when your head and your body start aligning. Dude, man, it becomes a superpower.
That's awesome. I love that.
It's cool.
Awesome, man.
Cool, man.
Anything
so, dude, I think that was a powerhouse.
Yeah, that was cool.
I'm going to hit a newt, I'm just all worked up. I'm going to hit a newt right
I want
now.
one too.
Freaking
Hey, cheers,
newt
bro.
up, baby.
What do we got here? Banana and acai. Let's go.
Live full fueled.
Live full fueled.
Live beyond limits.
Live beyond limits.
Is that what it was?
I think it's fuel full. Dude, I'm fuel full.
Oh, man. That's hilarious.
Are we done?
I guess.